This is the story of one of the great names in motoring and motorsport, Erik Carlsson. Erik Carlsson's name is synonymous with that of Saab, their victories in international rallying, and their current position as one of the major motor manufacturers of the world. Indeed, a car in their range bears his name. Erik Carlsson's first major win on the stage of motorsport was in Sweden, the Rikspokallen Rally in 1955. This was in a Saab 92, the car in which he really made his name, and that of the manufacturer. But how did it all start for Erik?
I did a lot of motorbike racing in the end of the 40s, and 1950-51, when I did my national service, I was also motorbike rider. First of all, there were dreadful bikes, awful bikes, and you have to ride them in all types of weather, snow, rain, everything. So I had enough of bikes when I got out. And at that time, Saab in my hometown, Trollhättan, had started making cars. And I suppose that was the reason I started with the Saab car. And at that time also, small rallying was everywhere in Sweden. And our director, one of the directors, he won the Swedish championship very early in the Saab 92. And I think that was who started me really get interested in rallying.
So your interest in Saab started because they were made in your hometown, really?
That's one reason. Yeah. As you know, I was interested in motorsport, and we often heard this bloody noisy two-stroke in the evenings, testing and making type of tune cars on the old airfield, and we could hear them right down in town. And I suppose that's one reason I started looking into that.
Surely a three-cylinder two-stroke at that time was still a little bit odd, wasn't it?
When I started, it was only two-cylinder. Two-cylinder two-stroke. And that was even odd too. But it was not the DKW engine, but it was quite similar ideas, the first two-cylinder Saabs, like the old DKW before the war. Very strong, not very fast, but very strong. You rougher the rally was, you better chance we had to win. For it doesn't matter how rough it was, you just kept your foot down. Saab made it easy for us. They call the successor to the 92 the 93, the three-cylinder two-stroke, which by 1956 was winning rallies all over Scandinavia. Saab were interested in racing too. Here we see Erik at the Le Mans start at the famous 12-hour race at Skorpnäck in Sweden. This was a race for standard production cars. Indeed, they were taken from the production lines of the manufacturers. Here the opposition also was from the German DKWs and from Ford Anglia. And Saab, as always, with Erik Carlsson, were on the pace. Erik also went racing for Saab with the Saab Formula Junior car. That same 90 brake horsepower 940cc twin-carb engine, front-mounted and driving through the front wheels. The opposition came from Cooper and Lotus, rear-engined, rear-wheel drive, and either the Ford or the BMC engine. Did Erik enjoy this sort of racing? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Not at all, really. First of all, I don't think the car was the best. If I maybe had a better car, I could have enjoyed it. But I don't believe that, for I didn't find to go around a truck 25 laps, the same corner, same thing all the time. I never find that very interesting. And as I said here, our car maybe was the quickest Formula Junior at that time, but they were not the best when there were corners.
Turning back to rallying again, driving a front-wheel drive car at that time required a slightly different technique to a rear-wheel drive car, would you agree?
One reason was the horsepower was nearly nothing. I think we started with a standard 24 horsepower, tuned to 32 or something like that the first year I was rallying. And there was only one thing to do, was to keep the foot down, right on the floor, and try to control a little bit of the speed with the left foot braking.
And yet you're not a great lover of left foot braking. I know you've told me that it's not something that you employed as much as some of the Scandinavian drivers did.
I did a lot of left foot braking in the first 5-6 years in Scandinavia, when we did mostly Scandinavian events. I remember come down to Tulip Rally the first time I did that. I started doing left foot braking, and no service at that time and no brakes. You know, we ran out of brakes
immediately. And changing linings at that time, after the drum, new linings you have to do yourself, and that took a long time. So I think after the first tulip rally I more or less stopped left foot braking. Anyway, I stopped left foot braking outside Scandinavian 100% after the first tulip rally.
In 1961, Erik returned to the RAC Rally and won again, this time with co-driver John Brown. He repeated the feat again in 62, and it was David Stone sharing the co-driver's seat in that year.
With a 5-second lead ahead of Eugen Böhringer in a Mercedes, Erik Carlsson entered the final special stage on the Grand Prix circuit at Monte Carlo in 1962. He won with 17 seconds to spare.
Who were the people that you worried about most if you were in a rally?
In the 60s, I think Eugen Böhringer with the Mercedes-Benz. He was a fantastic driver and a nice friend and a very, very good competitor. And he had a big car. I think he had a lot of horsepower, but his car was big. He maybe had a drawback with the size of the car, but engine-wise he had the most.
The 1963 Monte featured a battle between Erik Saab and Pauli Toivonen Citroën. By the time they reached Monaco, Erik had a 9-second lead, but it was 17 seconds when he won the rally with new co-driver Gunnar Parr. There was also a new rival in the shape of Stirling Moss's sister, Pat.
Yes, Pat, when I met Pat, she was rear-wheel drive woman. And she was, I must say, they were very quick. She was, I can say, she was easily the quickest woman driver. That's not true, for you have Anne Hall and you have Rosemary Smith and a lot of them. But I think Pat had the best results of any woman ever.
Pat was to progress through the MGs, Austin Westminsters, Morris Minors, Healey 3000s and Minis, taking victories in the Liège-Rome-Liège, the Tulip Rally and others in the early 60s. But in 1958, she was posing quite a threat to the reigning European ladies champion, Nancy Mitchell, driving a Healey 106. Soon Pat was leading the ladies' competition, but not without a few problems with spark plugs and a slipping clutch. She fought back, however, hurling the big Healey round the mountains to take the Coupe des Dames. Her faithful co-driver was Anne Wisdom, and Anne was known to Pat as Wiz.
I went to help Pat with her horses and looked after them for probably as much as a year under a stud groom, a very fierce stud groom. And then Pat was given, I think probably for a birthday present, a TR2.
Given, girl. I had to sell a horse to Dad and all that to get it.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yes.
And it was her pride and joy. And we went rallying in it, treasure hunts and things like that.
Now, when you went on, of course, to rally internationally, I presume you must have met Erik at the same time.
Yes, I think we did meet Erik together, didn't we?
Sort of.
Yes, on a Swedish, I should think, to start with.
The first time I remember him, do you remember when we'd been off the road in the MG? We were sat at an airfield and a great hand came through the window and a voice said, "You like apple." Yes. That's the first time when somebody said, "Oh, that's Erik Carlsson." And I remember you said, "Doesn't he look a bad-tempered blighter?" Do you remember? I think he'd gone off the road at the same place. I don't think he was pleased. We motored on, but his car was out, I think.
So eventually all this led, of course, to marriage. And what was it like being married to another rally driver who, yes, okay, you were in the same team, but at the end of the day, let's face it, you were competing against each other?
Well, of course, it was just the same. I tried to beat him before. I drove a few Saabs when he was in Saab before we were married, and I tried to beat him then, the same as I did to the day we stopped. It made no difference at all. There was no move over, dear, you can win, you know. That was, I was out there to try and beat him.
Bit of special satisfaction if you did beat him.
Oh yeah, great. Especially in the same car. That was a double lift. He was extremely good, most certainly in the forest. On bad roads, the Saab was incredible. I mean, there's never been a car like it, I don't think. The worse the going, the quicker the Saab was. He could go down the forest flat, with his foot on the floor, and keep going straight. Whereas we, with the Healey, say, we had to keep lifting off because they began to snake and bounce and so on. So yes, he was the man to beat. And as for being female, it just never came into it. We were treated the same as all the other blokes, except Marcus, the comp manager, looked after us. He was watchdog, like a second dad. He was super.
The contrast between driving the Healy and driving the Saab, as you did yourself, must have been enormous.
I suppose so, but when you're young and stupid, you don't think about it. And I used to drive a Healy, say, and then the next rally might be a Mini, or the Saab, or the Morris Minor, or whatever, and you never thought about it, except the Healy was damn quick. Do you remember the first Healy? Oh, we were so pleased. We'd gone from Morris Minors or whatever into Healys, and we were now the big boys, okay? Big broom cars. And the co-drivers, it was so hot, they used to take their shoes off and put their feet on the floor, and we've got blisters, I think, from the exhaust under the floor.
That's right.
They did insulate it in later cars, but it was that hot, if you can imagine it.
Now, there's another strange thing about both of you. In fact, you married a rally driver, racing driver as well, which some might say you should have known better. But the other thing was that you both stopped. You, in fact, spent a lot of time farming, and you're involved with your horses, and neither of you have anything to do with motor cars at all, really.
No, that's right. I think we both went back to our original love, which was horses, and forgot about the cars.
So there's no point in sort of suggesting that the Mitsubishi Marathon, what was the Pirelli Marathon, which your brother Pat has competed in with singular success over the years, could see perhaps a comeback by you two in the future?
No chance. Absolutely no chance. I'd be more tempted into truck racing than that.
That might happen, but the Stelvio for you, not on anymore.
No, no, definitely not.
I think a lot of the passes we used to do that were rough gravel are now tarmacked, so it's not quite the same. But do you remember the Garvia and so on, with no barriers at all? Just the odd stone or a memorial where a car went over or something.
Yes, that's right.
Croce Domini, I think, was the worst.
Yes, and just going into blue distance. You couldn't see the bottom.
I tell you what, the co-drivers needed twice as much as the drivers on the special stages anyway. I think they're all mad.
Yeah, but you told me also that if you were going to sit by anybody, you'd rather sit by Pat.
Indeed, absolutely.
I don't know how it's because I was mad then.
No,
times.
you weren't. If there was anything humanly possible that somebody could do when we got in trouble, Pat could do it. And I was totally happy.
We were aware of what was happening between Pat and Erik, and in spite of the difficulties of the language and everything else.
Oh, yes,
was it something
very aware.
Yeah.
Very aware.
Anne and I were very, very close friends, you know. And who's your boyfriend this week or whatever?
Yes, that's right.
And we were more like sisters, really,
Yes.
I think.
That's
So you could
absolutely
discuss
right.
him, in fact, you know, sort of pass an opinion.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yes.
Oh, well.
Doesn't everybody?
Did you persuade Pat to come and drive Saab, or was it something that she wanted to do?
She drove Saab even before we really got together. She had a 1959 early three-cylinder 750 here. She did some small rallies in England. And I think she was very happy with that. So David Stone and even Stuart Turner, they did quite a lot of rallying in that old Saab. And she was stuck on Saab, I think, from that. And well, it should really been Saab 1 year earlier than it did. For I remember in '63, when we got married, I tried to get her into Saab, but she had a good offer from Ford and a horse box. So that turned that deal down. But '64, she started with Saab, and I think she was extremely happy with the Saab, and she was happy with front-wheel drive. Funnily enough, the most competitive car at that time was the Cooper, you know. And Pat won a couple of rallies with the Cooper outright, but she was never happy with that front-wheel drive. But since that, with the Saab and even with the Lancia, she was very, very happy front-wheel driver. And she was a smooth driver. I think it suited the front-wheel driven car. She always, the speed difference between us and Pat was not very big, but she always had more brakes left when the event was over, and I did. So she must have been maybe a better driver.
Did you ever drive with her?
I've been shopping with her.
That's about as far as you'll let her drive you?
Yes. No, I haven't. Yes, we did. We did a small event. BETWEEP had every year some different country. And one year in Switzerland, they had a dinner there, and we were invited. And the evening before, they had a little small event around the hotel there, and I was a navigator. I don't think we even finished.
In the 1963 Swedish rally, Erik Carlsson was the driver to attract the most attention. The rally was held, as always, on winding forest tracks, roads which suited the Swedish drivers, but were also appreciated by foreign drivers. Erik came second.
Kenya, in 1963, the Safari Rally, and Erik and Gunnar Park were to make their first serious attempt on the African Classic. Pat was there too, making a record of the rally. She'd finished in third place in the Saab the previous year. From the starting ramp, the Saab went straight into an immediate lead. But as the rally reached Tanzania, Erik collided with an anteater, which damaged the car and was eventually to bring about their retirement.
The navigators I had in the 60s, they were very, very important. And I can also say, I don't think I have ever had a bad navigator. I'm surprised they are co-drivers. For there must be something wrong up here, you know, sitting in the seat next to it and just going on faster, faster. And I think Gunnar Palm, maybe my best navigator I ever had in the 60s, he must have been mad, you know, for it doesn't matter how fast I was going. Quick, keep your foot down, you know, it doesn't matter how much broadside or backways we went, you know, he was always, go on, go on, go on. And I think you need to have something like that. And Gunnar, I think, maybe not all the time, but most of the time, he knew what he was talking about. And during the days we had pace notes, he was fantastic, you know. All the rally we did, he never missed one line, you know. And if Gunnar said flat out behind that brow, you know, I never thought, you know, it was flat.
So there's got to be enormous trust between...
There must be unbelievable trust on navigator, or what you say, a pace note reader. If not, it's not worth to have one. If you don't trust him, there's only bloody extra weight.
Did you have a favourite event, an event that you remember that stays out in your mind perhaps as the one you enjoyed most?
Acropolis must be one of the best at that time. But my favourite, never won it, but my absolute favourite event was Sofia Liège. That maybe was the most silly one for us. We have so small engine, not a very high top speed, maybe just under 100 miles an hour. And the average speed was so high, so you have to keep it flat out all the way. But it suited me, it was a long event, and I loved to drive day out, day in. And I think that was one of the reasons we did well there. We didn't win, but we were second twice after the Mercedes-Benz SL, and 3 Liter was the Healy the year after. And that, to me, was my absolute best results in rallying.
The competitions department at Trollhättan, back in Sweden. The work is in full swing for readiness for the 1954 season. The Saab 96 shells are stripped out to prepare them for competition, with every effort made to ensure maximum performance and reliability. Erik was the Saab test driver and regularly came to check on the progress of his rally car. By now there was a new 3-cylinder 2-stroke engine. Only 841cc, it produced 80 brake horsepower in competition form. An essential part of rally preparation is good pre-event planning, and the drivers and co-drivers held regular meetings at Trollhättan. Here, Erik and Pat meet with Saab competition staff, and that includes the team manager, Bo Hellberg. The 1964 Monte Carlo Rally, and one of the start points was Oslo in Norway. Strong opposition was expected from Bo Youngford's Ford Falcon Sprint. Erik's wife Pat was there also with the Saab, this time accompanied by Ursula Word. Time for a quick cigarette, and then it was off into the cold night. with the long trek south ahead of him. After his 2 previous wins, Erik was undoubtedly the favourite. He was cheered enthusiastically at the start ramp at Oslo.
Stretches covered by ice and snow show the differences in driving style. Bo Jungfeld in his speedy Falcon. Tom Trana, as usual, with his very wide turns. And Erik Carlsson, taking the curves gracefully without any noticeable skidding. Monaco's Grand Prix track, without any handicap, offers some fine drama. Jungfeld ingeniously uses his speed and moves up a few notches. But there's no competing with Hopkirk. The Irishman squeezes out the Swedes to become the sensation of the rally.
Jungfeld's Falcon pushed Erik down to 3rd place in the final tests, and Pat lost 4th when overtaken by Makinen's Cooper S.
All eyes are on Erik Carlsson and Pat Moss after their outstanding performance the previous year. Will Erik become the first non-African driver to win the rally? A long and difficult route await Carlsson and Palm as they move out into the dark night on their journey through the African bush. Over several days, they speed through the deserted wilderness, at times threatened not only by wild animals, but also other dangers like non-existent roads, made completely impassable by the torrential rains. Fascinated by the white Swedish Saab, the local people helped move the car out of the mud. Erik Carlsson advanced steadily to the top of the rally and came away with 2nd place, the best performance ever attained by a non-African driver. From the bad roads in Africa, where Saab really showed what it can do, to the Tulip Rally with its broad, fine asphalt roads down through Europe to the Alps and back again to Holland. A rally known for its speed with a track and hill test as the decisive event. Zolder's Grand Prix track and Zandvoort in Holland. The big question, can Pat Moss once more capture the women's class and add to her unbelievably fine record in this rally with still another win? Pat did win again, and the men's championship went to Finland's Timo Mäkinen. From asphalt highways to Swedish gravel roads and the rally to the midnight sun, with its traditional start from Karlberg, Sweden's military academy outside Stockholm. The rally traditionally draws many spectators. Driving off through the Swedish summer landscape is Bo Ljungfelt in his Falcon. Other favorites are Tom Tranna, the final winner, Erik Carlsson, Pat Moss, and Uwe Andersson. Our auto racing cavalcade includes the Polish Rally. Interesting because it's here the World Championship title among national teams is decided. Erik Carlsson came in second in the overall competition after a dramatic final night when he ran out of gas going over the mountain. A motorcyclist rescued the Saab driver, who is the best Swedish motorist in this important rally. But Pat Moss, Mrs. Carlsson, was almost breathing down his neck, coming in third. England, the RAC Rally, which started off this time from London. The first stages, including all of Wales and the famous speed track, Oulton Park, were run through thick fog. From here, the rally moved north, through the Scottish Highlands. Erik Carlsson, who won this rally 3 times before, and Tom Tranna, who had won it once before, attracted the most attention as they forged on through the dense Scottish woods. Ice in the far north caused a crash between Tranna and Carlsson. But Pat Morse Carlsson came through without any great difficulty, and as usual, finished out in front in the women's class.
Pat, in fact, finished 4th overall on the British event. As for Erik, a misplaced arrow on a special stage sent them the wrong way, costing him victory and the European Championship, which was won by Tom Tranna in the Volvo. A smile from Liz Nystrom as we make our way onto the 1965 Safari Rally. The Saab team lineup this year had a newcomer, Pat's brother Sterling Moss, to accompany Erik on this occasion. Sterling now recovered from the 1962 accident which ended his Formula One career. He was now contemplating a return to rallying rather than racing, something he'd done successfully in the 1950s.
That was, I must be 65, Sterling and I did it together. And there was a lot of, after we retired, there was a lot of writing, especially in the East African paper, where rumors is the biggest thing in the world, I think. The rumors going on like hell down there. Sterling was, I must say, nobody could have done better than Sterling did that year. And when we retired, we were doing very well. I think we were lying first or second. And the navigation there was very important, and we had done quite good pace notes, and we had a Halda trip to go after. And certainly on a very, very long, very difficult navigation section, Halda stopped. And you know, you don't sitting watching that when you say you have to drive 32 miles to the next crossroad or something, and you sat there and nothing come up, you know, after 15 minutes or something. And when we realized that damn thing had stopped, we were so far off the course, so we were already late. And that could have happened with anybody. So I think Sterling was very good. He was fantastic competitive. For I remember one of the first sections that day was down to a riverbed and up on the other side, and we saw cars stuck everywhere. The 2 Mercedes sat in the bushes there. Eugen Böhringer sat on the roof waiting to go home, I think. And we stopped on the top, and I said to Sterling, what the hell, can you sit on the bonnet and I try if you get more weight on the front wheel? Sterling jumped out. He was lying flat on the bonnet, holding in the wiper blades. And I went as quick as I can through the water, and we just chew us up through the mud on the other side. And he said, go on, go on, go on. He was just like Palm had done the same. So I think he had the absolute will to win, you know, as we always know he had. And even when he was in the rally car.
Pat's season had started on a high with 3rd place in the Monte Carlo Rally.
With Erik and Sterling's retirement, Pat soon took the lead in the marathon event. Through the mud and the water, the little Saab plugged on. Pat by now was at the very top of her profession. The Liège-Rome-Liège rally with the Austin Healing has gone down as a classic victory. Sadly, however, though she got back to the finish on the second day, retirement was just round the corner when the rear axle finally gave way. Neither Erik, Pat Carlsson or Sterling ever won the safari, but it was not for want of trying.
You talk about Moss lying on the bonnet of the Saab. You must have done your fair amount of time in the co-driver's seat when he was driving. How did that strike you?
No, he didn't drive a meter, not 1 meter, I think. I drove all the way.
Do you mind being driven?
Pardon?
Do you like being driven?
No, I don't like to be driven, not even on the road. And there was same when we did Liège, Sofia Liège, you know, there were very, very few hours the navigator drove. The only one really I was happy with was Gunnar Palm. He drove very sensible. And on the Monte Carlo rally, I think, before we got to the special stages down in the French Alps, Gunnar drove most of it. That's the only time I really was happy with being driven.
Now, with a change that came with first the Saab being 2-cylinder, then 3-cylinder, and then, of course, going to the 4-cylinder, did you find that you preferred the bigger car as it developed with more power towards the latter part of your career to the earlier cars, or were you happier with the original cars?
I must say I prefer the V4 we had the last year I was rallying. The car wasn't as nice as the old two-stroke, and the time was not as nice either. I love the old two-stroke between, say, 57 to 64 or something like that. But when you had a V4, you don't have to go so damn stupid as we have to do with the two-stroke. The first outside rally we did with the V4 was 1967 in Czechoslovakia, the European Championship, one of the European Championship events. And when we did the practice, Torsten and I remember, I think we had 105 horsepower or something. And there were good tarmac sections there. And I said to Torsten, you know, I don't think we never need more than 105 horsepower for this. Such big gap was it from 80 horsepower two-stroke to the V4. But the handling, nothing can be compared with the, say, 62, 63 two-stroke Saab. Unbelievable, you know. If you were stupid enough and kept your foot on, nobody could follow you.
You retired from rallying, some might say, a little early, because rally drivers can and do go on very competitively, as Hannu Mikkola has done, into their 50s.
Oh, it looks like that today. Björn Waldegård and Hannu, you know, they've gone on long time after I thought they should have stopped. I stopped 1967 after only about 10 years rallying, really. But 20 years with motorbikes and rallying. And one reason I started was I had an extremely bad back. And also, the car was not as competitive as it should have been. You could be third, fourth or fifth something, that was no problem. But personally, I think if you should compete with a factory car, supply the factory car, you should have a chance to win. If you are a private driver, it's up to him. If he wants to be 10th or 25th, it's up to him. But if paid and sponsored by a factory, I think there should be a chance to win. And it's not good for the factory either to finish third or fourth or fifth. There's only one place really, and we couldn't do that in that 67.
You said you have a bad back. Is that as a result of running, or because you're a rather big chap?
It could also start from the motorbike times. It's possible. I suppose all the sitting in the car, at that time we didn't have the best seats. That didn't help, and the roof came down a couple of times to knock me in the head. That, I suppose, didn't help either. And the heavy weight, I suppose, and sitting like this all the time. You know, when I sit in the Saab today, I'm very, very comfortable. The seats are nearly made after me, or me is made after the seat, I don't know.
You made your home in England. Why in England when you lived in Sweden, you'd driven for Saab, you still work with Saab? Why England?
When we got married in '63, Pat still had horses, dogs, cats and everything. And I only had a flat. So it was much easier for me to pack a suitcase and a small van and put stuff in there and drive to England instead of Pat taking all her stuff and horses to Sweden. And that's something I never regret.
You put up with England pretty well.
Oh, sure, yeah. And when we were rallying, the years after we were married, there was no problem. It was easier to get from London to a rally and maybe go from Scandinavia to a rally. We met up with the rally boys, the cars, the mechanics, and that was that. That was no problem at all.
Being married and being a professional rally driver, did this bring any particular stresses into your life, or did it work out okay?
No, I don't think so. No, don't think so. And funnily enough, we seldom talk rallying home. Even when we were rallying, there was seldom any discussion about rallying. And if that had gone on home also, I don't think it could have worked out. But I think when you have finished, you should have other hobbies too.
The 1969 Baja 1000, a competition with exotic company. 2 Saabs stood on the starting line. Erik Carlsson was in one of them, making a temporary comeback in this grueling event. Swedish-American Ingvar Lindqvist was in the other. "1,600 kilometers through the roadless Mexican desert. Ingvar Lindqvist won. And with the Baja 1000, Erik made a brilliant exit from the international rally scene.
"1986 saw the realization of an incredible motoring achievement by Saab. At Talladega Raceway in the USA, a circuit normally hosting 200 miles per hour NASCAR events, Erik and a team of engineers and drivers took 3 standard Saab 9000s chosen at random from the production line, and they drove them non-stop for 3 weeks. The 3 cars circulated the Bank, Alabama circuit at all times, being monitored by shifts of time officials.
5011.
Nightfall saw no let-up in the car's pace. Pit stops for driver changes, for fuel, and for routine servicing going on all the time. The turbos glowing red hot in the night air. And the cars continuing on their way. Erik assisted with the driving as well as with the management duties. And the fastest car clocked up the 100,000 kilometers target at an incredible average speed, 132.54 miles per hour, including all pit stops. An important part of Erik Carlsson's work today for Saab are such things as the Saab test days. He's seen here at Donington Park at the wheel of a Saab Carlsson, the car that was named after him by Saab. This isn't just an exercise in high performance. Saab are anxious that people who purchase their cars should have some idea of their stability and their capabilities. And who better to show them that than Erik Carlsson? It's a chance for would-be buyers of Saabs to be driven by the man whose name has become synonymous with that of the manufacturer whose products he now drives. Apart from throwing the car about like this, Erik also indulges in a demonstration of Saab handleability that has rarely been equaled by any other manufacturer. The famous Saab tire cutting. Erik has performed this thousands of times and still hands off.
Erik Carlsson really is Saab's heritage, and in Britain in particular, which has got a great rally following, Erik epitomises what Saab was all about in the past, maybe in the future. And I think it is true to say that Saab is still considered to be the sporty car that comes out of Sweden.
As well as the road and off-road driving technique courses, one of the most popular that Erik Carlsson runs is the ice driving technique. This is held on the frozen lakes of Norway. Let's go for a ride with Erik on the ice in a Saab 9000.
I suppose the Scandinavians are lucky who have a bit of winter condition every year to practice on winter driving. It's not so easy for people living in UK. They maybe have 1 or 2 days. But this 1 or 2 days can be very dangerous if they don't know what they're doing. And I suppose most accident and off the road is due to too high speed. And of course, it is for everybody easy to lock the brakes and you're standing and skidding straight on. Practice is the only thing who can help you on special ice driving and snow driving. There's something you don't learn in 1 day or 2 days. Brake early and take it steady. Try to stay on a high gear. If you have too low gear, it's easy to get wheel spin and you lose grip. And if you should start feeling you're losing grip, back off the throttle a little bit instead of put the foot down, as many people said. If you have a front-wheel driven car, just put your foot down, but that is not right. It's the same with rear and front-wheel driven car. You have to back up and try to feel when you get the grip. But there again, it's practice all the time. I've been doing that for more than 40 years, so I should have learned a little bit of winter driving. It's easy to say, don't drive faster than you can steer, but that is the easiest way to explain winter driving, really. Don't go faster than you can steer. But you see now I brake quite early and put very little power on into the corner here. And as you can see here today, the ice is extremely slippery. We only have about -1 degrees Celsius, and that is perhaps the worst condition you could have. But today with a modern car with ABS brakes, that's a fantastic help, you know. You can even brake right in the middle of the corner and steer. With a car without ABS, you know, if you start doing that, it's just skidding straight on. So if you have had the chance to practice, like we're doing now, with ABS brakes or without, you can so easily see if you lock the wheel, it's difficult to steer, but with ABS, with that click, click, click braking, very, very fast locking and unlocking, you can still steer. I will show you here now, and I have the anti-brake working and still steering.
I've noticed that you never use left foot braking. Do you think that that's a...
Now, that is something you shouldn't try to teach a normal driver. First of all, he haven't time to practice enough to be good on it. And if you're not good on left foot braking, you have to say that's dangerous, you know, for it's so easy to lock the wheel more than you should do. The rally boys today, they use it maybe every weekend and they're expert on it, but don't try to teach people left foot braking for normal driving.
We're driving an automatic car, Erik. A lot of people are more concerned about driving an automatic car on ice than they are a manual car.
No, for normal driving, no difference. Sometimes I should like to say it's even safer to have a automatic box. For you don't need to use the clutch, you don't need to change down, you can just stick to the driving and the throttle pedal and the brakes. Personally, the last 3 years I have had automatic gearbox. I suppose I'm getting old, but today I'm very happy with that. And it's safe.
From the road-going 9000, we turn to another road-going car, but this time fitted with the full rally studs. It's with cars like this, 500 studs on each, that modern rally cars set about forest stages on frozen roads. To all intents and purposes, they give almost total control that one would have on a dry road. But a rally driver can get the car to some very strange angles indeed and still retain control. It's this sort of development that has enabled Saab to have such a superb handling car. A car that is famous for its safety, particularly in difficult conditions. A maestro like Carlsson can play tunes. From full rally studs, we move back to the road car again. This time on a normal public road. Erik Carlsson talks to us about the finer points of road driving.
The difference between this and a lake is, first of all, you normally have a bit better grip on the real ice. But the most important is you have not so much space here, so there's no chance for you to play around like you did on the lake. For here you need to be very exact. You don't have a lot of space to collect the car if you skid too far. And also you could have some traffic. Even if this stage, luckily enough, is closed just for our use, you have to be very precise if you want to go fast on a road like this. And with the few standard studs we have on the tires here, they're legal studs, so they're not extremely good, but we're still doing nearly 100 miles an hour here. And with ABS brakes, it's easy to brake, so you can still steer. This I call winter driving, you know, really nice white roads. And I suppose most of the Scandinavian rally drivers have learned to drive on this type of road, you know. A piece of close road, if you're friendly with a farmer or something, they'll happily close the road for you, and you can really try and what the limit is. Difference to this and to driving on ice is when you are on a road where you can meet people, you know, you can't play around like you did on the lake. Here you have to be sure you don't meet anybody, and also the road is narrow, you know, it's very easy to be in the ditch. But this is fun. And here on this type of surface, you know, even this standard studded winter tires give you a good grip here, so you can really play around.
Traction control makes a lot of difference to driving
Yes,
a car like this.
but when you really try to push it, you know, you can't put the foot, you can't get the power really when you want it. For that, control the power, so you don't overdo it. I should like to have it without here. When you come around the corner, you put your foot on. But for normal driver, that control the much power you get on. So to make the driving much easier and much safer.
Tom, what does Erik Carlsson mean as far as the world's press is concerned?
Oh, he is Mr. Saab worldwide. We've been involved with him in so many launches, visits to factories, ice driving, the ice driving technique, the gravel driving technique, and in fact the road driving technique. He has taught us an awful lot. And the result, one of the results of this was when I was chairman of the Guild of Motoring Writers, he was my choice as to become a friend of the Guild. And he's provided so much interest in everything that we do when we go abroad with Saab, wherever it is. I think he has this great presence without trying. He's there, he's a character, he's a personality. And of course, the beautiful thing is, of course, he knows his stuff. He knows his Saab history, the Saab saga, and his abilities with the cars made him synonymous with the name. And I think this is the best thing that Saab have got worldwide.
Erik Carlsson is a rallying and motoring legend, both in the industry and in the sport. He's equally at home whatever the conditions are in rallying or on the road, particularly at home in the snow. The Swedish flag flies proudly over the Carlsson's English home. Erik actively involved promoting Saab worldwide, Pat taking care of daughter Susie's show jumping team, which has brought considerable success. Finally, did Erik ever want to drive anything other than a Saab?
I tried a little bit, and I was offered, as you know, some drive for other companies, but I know the Saab from the beginning, and as I said, it was in my hometown, and I always got on very well with Saab, and there was never any problem. If I want something, I always got it. And I don't regret I changed. I maybe lost a lot of money during the years we were rallying, but I'm happy now, and I'm still with Saab. And I've been driving Saab since 1952. October 52 was my first two-cylinder Saab. And that's a long time, you know.